This is Chapter 1, Introduction to Physical Education, Fitness, and Sport. We will learn in this chapter lifespan physical activity and the obesity health crisis. We know that over 2/3 of all adults and 1/3 of children in the U.S. are now overweight. Almost 30% of adults and 16% of children are obese. When we look at ways to determine obesity, we have to look at body mass index. And looking at body mass index, or BMI, for children and youth, if the BMI is greater than the 85th percentile, that child or youth will be considered overweight. If the percentile is greater than 90, then that child or youth would be considered obese. So there is a difference between being overweight and obese. And here is the formula for adults, and we can look at the range. 18 to 25, greater than 25 is considered overweight, greater than 30 is considered obese. Now, I'm going to calculate my BMI, all right? First of all, I weigh 117 pounds and I am 5'2", which is 62 inches. So first I'm going to square my height. So if I squared 62 inches, it would be 3,844. Now I'm going to take my weight, 117, divide it by 3,844. So I'm going to get 0.0304370. Now I'm going to multiply that number by 703. So my BMI is 21.397211. So if I look at the range, my BMI of 21 is in the optimal range. So I'm basically where I should be according to my BMI. So what are the causes for the growing number of obese individuals? One is energy imbalance. Today, children consume more energy-dense foods and are less physically active than children were 25 years ago. Higher calorie intake, less energy expended equals weight gain. The built environment results in factors such as communities designed to foster driving than walking, electronic culture such as TV viewing and video playing. Who is more likely to be obese? We have regional factors, economic factors, and society factors. We can say that socioeconomic status is the main factor that limits opportunities in sport, fitness, and physical education. It is not gender, age, or how athletic you are. So what are the health risks of obesity? We have coronary heart disease, type 2 diabetes, cancer, high blood pressure, high total cholesterol, stroke, liver and gallbladder disease, sleep apnea, respiratory problems, osteoarthritis, and reproductive health problems. So what is the economic impact or the cost of obesity? Medical spending for obese is 42% higher than normal weight people in the U.S. Businesses spend over $13 billion annually for health insurance claims, paid sick leave, disability, and life insurance. So what is the economic impact? 1 billion additional gallons of gasoline for cars and nearly 10 billion tons of carbon dioxide emissions, and airlines industry spends 350 million more gallons of fuel. So what are the current trends of fast food beverages industries? Since the 1980s, consumption among U.S. children and youth have increased dramatically. Fast food is less expensive than healthy food and is typically more accessible. Healthy People 2000 provided some goals for nutritious school meals and more activities. The goals include increase percentage of schools offering nutritious meals, increase of schools with a school breakfast program, increase proportion of schools requiring physical education for all students, an increase in proportion of adolescents participating in daily physical education, increased proportion of adolescents who meet objectives for aerobic and physical activity and muscle strengthening activities. On May 3, 2010, America's first National Physical Activity Plan, which is NPAP, was developed to improve health, prevent disease and disability, and enhance the quality of life. NPAP is organized into 8 society sectors: business and industry, education, healthcare, mass media, parks, recreation, fitness and sport, public health, transportation, land use, and community design, and volunteer and nonprofit organizations. The NPAP primary strategies are advocacy, mobilizing support for planned strategies and tactics, mount a national physical activity education program, disseminate best practices in physical activity models, programs, and policies, create a national resource center to disseminate effective tools, and establish a Center for Physical Activity Policy Development and Research. Now we're going to look at lifespan physical activity. Is it just for children and youth, or who else or why? Historians will describe the current era as a watershed period characterized by the emergence of the possibility and desirability of lifespan physical activity through physical education, fitness, and sport. Historically, we think of physical education, fitness, and sport programs as limited primarily to older children, youth, and young adults. Senior citizens used to be ignored. What is the role of building self-efficacy? Self-efficacy is defined as people's belief about their capabilities to produce designated levels of physical performances in activities. Play is not just for children. The early years, children learn through physical movement, and young children learn about their world chiefly by physically exploring their surroundings. Physical movement is the basic language during the early childhood years from birth to age 7. Physical movement is the basic lifespan. Fitness should begin in early childhood so that a foundation of motor skill development can be built. Physical education has traditionally reinforced the notion that there are girl activities and boy activities, and most research indicates that unfit children most often will become unfit adults. While increasing numbers of boys and girls competing in interscholastic sport programs has increased, there is also a large number of girls and boys who try out for high school sport teams that do not make the final cut. Most high school teams do not have intramural sports for the girls and boys, not only in a sport. Many states have passed regulations that allow school districts to hire non-certified persons to coach sports teams. Most elementary school children have physical education taught by a non-physical education specialist. Young adult physical activity opportunities include campus rec, intramurals, which is interesting. Softball is the most popular recreational sport for both men and women. We have sports clubs, outdoor adventures, worksite fitness, wellness centers, health clubs, YMCAs, parks and rec programs. For our older adults, the old myth was to avoid moderate to vigorous physical activity. Since the 60s, increase of all forms of competitive physical activity. We have age group competition sport, master swimming, World Master Games, and in 2002, the 5th World Master Games attracted more than 20,000 athletes into a sport of track and field in Australia in the National Senior Games. What are some of the consequences for sedentary living? It is estimated to account for 50% of the decline in strength, flexibility, anaerobic fitness. So what are some new settings for physical activity? We have public and private sector programs. Home fitness, fee-for-service sport clubs, fee-for-service fitness centers, community centers, YMCA, YWCA, worksite fitness and wellness. We know that the main clientele for fitness centers are young adults. What are some emerging characteristics of the physical activity? It's really important to start early to form those habits. It must be enjoyable, must reduce gender bias, increase life expectancy, emerge a private sector industry, more readily available and better information, improve technology. What are some of the major issues we face and how do we confront them? Physical activity throughout the lifespan is possible, but we need access to healthier foods. The role of race, place, and socioeconomic status, how the environment is built, or the big question is, should it be about individual responsibility? This concludes Chapter 1.